First thing as I wake up, King David turns Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to commit it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. So no weapon that form against us shall not prevail. And no man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them. Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You are everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. And hear quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember, you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of love. Send down your warriors with the hello. They carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this storm is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that we is myself? No weapon that form against us shall not prevail. No man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PG Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Al Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course, We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video, whether it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, wherever you are. Good morning to you and thank you for joining us. It's been quite a week. We've had a lot of developments throughout this week. The Prime Minister has been making a lot of appearances recently on a lot of the media outlets in Grenada. He was on GBN yesterday. He was on Sister Al Radio last night, I believe. Today, this morning at 11, he will be joining Aruna. And of course, we will be streaming it here live so that you guys can view what is being said. Tonight, I believe he's going to be on Mikey Live. Mr. Technician is tonight. He's on Mikey tonight. And at 6, I believe, or 7. I'll get that time and I'll let you know. And then tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, he's going to be on Shaggy. All right. So I want you guys to tune in because I know there were a lot of people out there saying, oh, the Prime Minister shouldn't come on Hard Talk. Hard Talk is a political program. Why the Prime Minister need to address us here? And y'all need to stop. He is welcome to speak wherever he chooses, just as media houses are welcome to invite him to speak as well, because at the end of the day, what we do is not for ourselves. What we do is for the people. We are there to ensure that the information reaches you in whichever form you choose to listen to it in. All right? As long as the information is factual. We don't mind. That's what we are here for. All right? Now, this morning I have a few shots to fire. I know this is a little outside of my usual. So I'm going to fire a few shots this morning. And I'm doing it because I want to make the public aware of something that is unacceptable, something that we must not condone, something that I feel like we are taking for granted. We had a long discussion a few weeks ago about respect, having respect for people, having respect for individuals in society. You know, you want to be treated equally, you want to be respected, right? And I'm going to play a clip for you. I want to play a clip for you. Let me pull it up here quickly, because I'm very disturbed. I'm very upset at this statement, right? That I heard that has been circulating. All right, so I didn't just pull this out of a hat. This is something that has been circulating, and it needs to be addressed. And we're going to talk about it here, because I think it's of bad taste. So let me play this for you quickly, and then we'll discuss it.
Watch. Keith Mitchell dumb, he's stupid, he dotish. Gregory Boy even worse. How they so stupid? Huh? And look, I am no mathematician. Keith Mitchell is a mathematician and a statistician. This guy is dumb. Keith Mitchell is a dumb individual. But you have him as your prime minister. Right? You have him as your prime minister. And remember, I said prime minister. P-R-I-M-E. M-I-N-I-S-T-E-R. You have him as your prime minister. You could imagine that in Grenada here. Right? And it's spelled P-R-I-M-E. M-I-N-I-S-T-E-R. The guy's dumb. The guy's stupid. He's a foolish guy. Keith Mitchell and Gregory Boyne, they're too, dumb and dumber.
Every person in Grenada, Carriacou, and...
All right. Now, we all know that voice. We all know that angry person. This is the highest level of disrespect that I think I have ever encountered. You have an individual going on public radio and referring to the Prime Minister of the country and the Deputy Prime Minister of the country in such a derogatory manner. And some of us sit down jumping up, ki, ha, 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 hoo, because we don't support or we don't like the Prime Minister. Let me tell you all something. Respect is something that everybody deserves. And as Prime Minister of a country, you deserve it even more. You may not like the man. You may not agree with some of the policies that his administration implement. But you see that right there? The only time some of you are going to feel a kind of way about this kind of behavior is when it's one of your names that is being called, or the names of one of your family members that is being called. How dare we sit and allow this lawless, slack, loose behavior to continue on public radio? How long are we going to sit and allow this looseness to occur? Not only is it disrespectful, it is also lawfully considered slander. It is also lawfully considered slander. And if this is what the other party, because I can't call them the opposition anymore, if this is what the other party has as a representation and as a speaking voice on their behalf, I now understand why they continue to lose elections. So you have a man who is clearly an activist for this party sitting in a chair on public radio, speaking about the Prime Minister in this sort of manner. And for those of you who are just joining us and didn't get a chance to hear it, let me play it again.
Mitchell dumb, he's stupid, he dotish. Gregory Boyne even worse. How they so stupid? Huh? And look, I am no mathematician. Keith Mitchell is a mathematician and a statistician. This guy is dumb. Keith Mitchell is a dumb individual. But you have him as your prime minister. Right? You have him as your prime minister. And
you heard it there. How can we allow this lawlessness to continue? When are we going to stand up as a people for the right things? When are we going to stand up as a people for things that matter most? We like confusion, we like melee, we like jump up. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't, that is your choice, but we have to know what it is we are standing for. How can we allow something like this to happen? And those of you who are calling the radio programs and supporting, yay, key, and y'all clapping hands and jumping in joy for something so loose and so lawless. It makes me wonder where our priorities are as a people, what we value as a people. I mean, come on. And I would appeal to the leader of that party that if they do not come out and apologize on behalf of the party or make a statement to the office of the Prime Minister on behalf of their party, it leads a lot to be said on what they will condone and what lengths they would go. Yes, you hear that correctly. He referred to our Prime Minister as a crime minister. He referred to our Prime Minister as stupid, as dumb. How can you do that? You know, want things that you would want for yourself. So you have the NDC having this mouthpiece on radio, belittling the office of the Prime Minister, the same office that they are trying to get into. At some point, one of their individuals, one of their members will become Prime Minister. It doesn't make it right. This is disrespect on all corners, and I will not stand for it. And you must not stand for it as well as a people. Saying no to these kind of things doesn't mean that you're supporting the NNP. If you are an avid opposition supporter, saying no to these kind of things doesn't mean that you like the Prime Minister. But we have to support what is right, and this is not right. This is not right. How can you do something like that and some of us sitting down there sharing it to all our friends and all of our neighbors and all of our brothers and sisters and laughing kiki and giving this individual airplay? And I feel so bad about it. Because you have people all over the world listening to this sort of nonsense and saying, hey, well, that's how Grenadians does behave. This doesn't just look bad for the Prime Minister, you know. This looks bad on all of us as a people. You have this individual, they're setting the standard for other people to look at us and say, well, that's how Grenadians does behave. That's how Grenadians speak. And that is not how we are. There are a lot of us who are far more intelligent than this sort of nonsense. So media and radio now is for jump up. Is anybody who have something to say can just jump on radio and just say what they want to say and go home and sleep good in the night because they have, and feel good and smile about it because they have just disrespected an entire institution that governs a nation? Is that what we are supporting now? That's what we feel good about now? I mean, I heard this thing and I was so disappointed. I wasn't even upset. I was disappointed. And not just disappointed in what he said, but when I looked at the comments underneath, and you can find the full video if you want to, because we all know who that voice belongs to. It is such a disappointing thing. And we have our first caller on the line. Good morning, caller. But I'll ask that our calls remain short for the interest of time. Remember, we are going over to Aruna to listen to the Prime Minister in a short while. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Miss Camille.
Hi, good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Well, I did listening and I heard this individual voice going this with themselves and talk about the disrespect of the Prime Minister officer. It's not your program.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people, when I spoke about it, some parts they throw what they could do. Morning, Brenda, they say, how can I tell? That alone to show you. You understand? Something is wrong. He was in the CRV time. He was in the CRG, chairman of the CRG. This guy that they on the radio every morning and Grenadians supporting him with the wrong things he's saying. Then he lock him up. You know what I say? Then he lock him up. But the disrespect. He have no respect for the Prime Minister. Even that you don't like the Prime Minister. Have respect for the office role.
Yep.
You hear? He's running the money, saying all kind of things. You have to remember, Miss Duncan, the little thing that somebody do for you. When he was with NNP, there are clips where he was praising them.
Of course, we have the clips right here.
So sour with you. Why you disrespecting the man and calling the man all names? And he have citizens that's supporting him.
Mm-hmm.
None of his friends, none of the people that supporting him can say, don't do this thing. They're encouraging him.
Yeah.
Boy, I warning you this morning. You need your mouth, you know. Stop this kind of thing, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Stop disrespecting the man. Stop disrespecting the office, the Prime Minister whole. You won't get everybody to like you. I won't get everybody to like me in Grenada. When I speak about certain things, I speak the idea about, I say, you have some MP. They don't like the Prime Minister. They like the Prime Minister for what they could get, the position they hold. Deep down, they don't like him because you know why I say so? Sometimes when they sit on my knee and they drink up here, they speak in. Look at yesterday, Mr. Duncan, you was witness to one.
Yes, I was.
You was right here.
Yep.
And he said close on the top.
Yes, he did.
You understand?
Yes, he did.
That alone is to tell me his hypocrisy with some of the Grenadian people. I warning the Prime Minister, I warning the Commissioner, I warning some of them that they are wrong these people. They don't love them, they don't love all you. They love what they could get, what you could do for them.
Mm-hmm.
You could help them to get a good job, their family, but deep down they don't have that love for you, sir. I don't want sympathy from nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody doesn't help me do nothing on my own. Good morning to Mr. Watson, his brother, and Patricia, and my friends in Canada, and Zingo, and Depo Dean. You know, this will call to tell me, good morning, Miss Cami, and that alone will keep me alive for the day. Before I leave, Miss Duncan, I want to just stress on something on the boss men, okay? And I want you to listen carefully. Miss Duncan, the government, they give the bossmen, they have a law about the bosses, the price. St. David's route was $6.50. They choose to take $6, right? That's St. David's route, right? They have another route again. They will say it's $5. They take in $4. Just take back all your 50 cents. Take back the 50 cents. That is a law they had for the busmen. That is your original price. And they choose to take back your 50 cents. One route was $4.50. They take in $4. Take back your 50 cents. So that is $6.50. That was the price you had to pay from St. George's to Sutton, $6.50. The Sutton route, they choose to take $6. Just take back the 50 cents. You understand? And they know that. So the government don't hold them nothing. What they making that big deal about? They have a law that gives them that. It's them that choose to take $4, so to take $6. You understand what I'm saying? And I will give you a copy. I'm going to give you a copy. So if I'm wrong, I will go and apologize.
Yeah. All
You
right.
understand?
Yeah.
The St. David's route used to be $6.50, but it will take $6 from St. George's to Granville. So it's them. All you have to do is to take back the 50 cents.
Yeah. All
The
right.
government have that.
Yeah.
They have that. When they give them that And it's them that choose to take $5, them that choose to take $6. So you could just take your 50 cents back. And I want to say good morning to everybody this morning, all my friends, Bala, the Grenada bus. Some of them, they're telling you don't work, but they walk in.
Yeah.
I am sitting here, and they have their contact, and they're telling you don't work. Right?
Yeah.
Some of them is working. So I would say, if I don't get out of the business, I would say, I don't working. So I sit now and sell clarity with the rest of the guys. That is what them bossmen say now, because there's some of them on the terminal right now that is working. And they're saying the guy is telling them to work, but they had a contract. So them boys come out. Some of them come out, look at them here.
Yeah.
You understand me, Duncan?
Yeah.
Look at them on the bus. There is 3 buses already that leave Grenville and come down with load.
Yeah.
And they say the people telling them, don't walk. Because these people who tell them don't walk, they have their contract, they get in the money. So them guys walking.
Yeah.
One came now with the full load. You understand? So it's not right to understand that. If you don't want them to walk, you don't walk to them. Because they're speaking. Look at them here.
Yeah.
Okay? So have a good day.
You too, Mr.
Have a
Kame.
good day, Grenada. And then the bus terminal. Or you could pass if I want to support me. But it's God that's sharing bread.
Yeah.
And I would like the Prime Minister to do something with this guy that don't have no respect.
Disrespecting him, yes.
Boy, you must have respect for the Prime Minister.
Yes.
He is the Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou.
Yeah.
Have some respect, boy. We're going to sorry. Trust me. We're
All
going
right.
to sorry.
All right,
Have a
Miss
good day.
Cammy. You too. All right, guys. With me in studio, as you can see, I'm wearing my mask because some people have been complaining that I'm not wearing my mask when Mr. Bola is here. So I have on my mask. I have with me Mr. Bola. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan. Good morning to the listening public. And of course, to all the wonderful people that care so much about me. I have been asking her to wear her mask as well, because I wear mine. So thank you for reinforcing that point.
All right, Mr. Bola, you just reached. So I just want to play for you quickly the clip that everybody has been so riled up about this morning. So let me play that for you quickly to the caller that's on the line. Just hold on the line for me while I play this clip for Mr. Bola.
Not water?
No.
Keith Mitchell dumb, he's stupid, he dotish, Gregory boy even worse. How they so stupid? Huh? And look, I am no mathematician. Keith Mitchell is a mathematician and a statistician. This guy is dumb. Keith Mitchell is a dumb individual. But you have him as your prime minister. Right? You have him as your prime minister. And remember, I said prime minister.
So that is it, Mr. Bola. Let's take the call quickly, and I know you want to speak on that. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Duncan.
Hi, good morning. And I just want to let you know that we are very pressed for time, so I'm asking to keep all comments very brief.
Well, you know, I always keep to the rules. I disagree with you by not exposing the person's name.
Oh, well, I don't have
Because
to. Everybody knows who that is.
We in the diaspora need to know that person's name. A lot of people know the voice, but a lot of us don't. So please expose the person's name for us. Have a blessed day.
You too, caller. Mr. Bola, now that you've heard it, I mean, we've spoken here a lot about having respect. Up to last week, we had long conversations about respecting the office of the Prime Minister. You may not like him, but the man is an institution and you must respect that. In the same way that Tillman Thomas, the Honorable Tillman Thomas, was an institution as well. He was our Prime Minister. You know, you have to respect the office that the person holds. And it's as simple as that.
So, thanks, Ms. Duncan. Let me start by saying this. There's a saying that goes around, if you give respect, you get respect. Respect cannot be demanded, it's earned. But sometimes we forget that if you don't have respect, you was never grown and thought how to be respectable. Don't expect people to have it. I consider Mr. Kim Jones as a gentleman who has no idea of what respect and discipline is. Yes? And for those who encourages him and agrees with him, they are just as bad as he is as it relates to respect for officials, for offices, for institutions, whatever it is. He's just that kind of guy that doesn't know what respect looks like. I'm not even sure if he can spell the word respect because he doesn't behave as an intelligent person. I mean, why are we debating that or laboring over that? It was not too long ago when this same gentleman, this same Mr. Kim Jones, was on air referring to the Conference of Churches and other leaders in the religious circle as people who were sucking up, as he said in his own words, the anus of the NNP. Right? So if you can go that far, it tells me as an individual that you are one never to look forward or expect any respect from because you don't know it. I mean, how can someone tell you what a mango tastes like if they have never seen, touched, or tasted a mango?
Yep.
I want to believe that that guy was so disrespected as a child, probably even abused. I don't know. I don't have any facts to prove that. But his utterances, his behavior, all his mannerisms, the way he acts and the things he says, I feel pity for him. In fact, if I was Prime Minister of Grenada, what I would have done is get the police to bring him in, not because we want to arrest him. You know. No. Absolutely not. Not to arrest him. But for fear that who you really want him to see, he may not see them. So you'll get the police to bring him in, get a psychologist, someone to examine his brain, someone to look into his childhood, you know? I mean, you have to examine this guy's childhood. I don't know if his mother is still alive. And if you are, madam, I respect you. I believe probably you did the best you could. And people can only do what they can.
Yep.
If you cannot. And sometimes, even when you do the best, again, if the individual doesn't want to accept and take, because sometimes we say people need teaching.
Yeah.
They need to learn, but not every individual is teachable.
Yep.
Some people just cannot take anything more. And over the years, the behavior of Mr. Jones suggests to me that he has reached the point, to have already been at that point, maybe started at that point, where he can't learn, he can't understand, he doesn't know what respect is. So please, Grenadians, don't expect respect from him. But you know the other thing is, the more we talk about him and his behavior, the more he feels that he's important and popular. So my suggestion will be to the public, when he behaves like that, you just don't take him on. Don't even listen to him.
Don't engage him.
Don't engage him. There was one time when I used to listen to his program because I felt that if there is something he has to say, and we can hear it, then we can take corrective measures. But then I come to realize that there's nothing there to teach me or for me to take from him. There's nothing that I need to listen to.
Yep.
It's like they said from the time I was young, saying empty vessels make the most noise.
Yep.
It's like an empty vessel just being noisy because he has a vendetta with somebody. Now, if you ask the gentleman what it is that Dr. Kit Mitchell did to him that was so wrong, or the New National Party, and that doesn't mean he has to support the New National Party.
Exactly.
It is well within his rights, his freedom, and he has the authority to like and support whichever political party or organization he's desirous of. But one recalls only years ago, same Mr. Kim Jones was a member of the New National Party.
Yeah.
In fact, he sat on the executive of the New National Party. And again, it was because of the lack of respect. He was asked to leave the position that he had. So I have countless number of occasions that I can talk about where respect was never exhibited. Mm-hmm. He disrespected the then Honorable Clarice Charles, who was his parliamentary representative at the time. A woman whom, in her capacity as parliamentary representative, ensured that he got some kind of education, but probably she didn't do a good enough job. I don't know, or he couldn't take it. I mean, I want to be very balanced here. I'm not saying that she did her best. Maybe again, like we say, he's not teachable. He was utterly disrespectful to the honorable minister in her capacity as minister at a meeting that I was present in, an executive meeting. And when spoken to by the same Prime Minister, Dr. Mitchell, and asked him to calm down, to show some respect, he challenged the political leader. Again, in the most disrespectful way. They say, some people say that you need to train the tree while it's young, because when it gets older, it will not bend. The Bible says if you spare the rod, you may spoil the child. But those who are good drinkers say, as wine age, it tastes better. So I believe, Mr. Jones, I put you in the category of wine. Not good one.
I just got to say, because I am a wine drinker.
But as you age, you get better with your stupidity and disrespectfulness. So I am not surprised.
Let's hope.
I am not surprised by any stretch of the imagination.
Mr. Bola, this is just, and I mean, it disappoints. I'm not even upset about it. It's disappointing. And I'm not disappointed in what he said, because as you say, you really can't expect more from him. I'm disappointed in the comments and the people that support him openly. And these are people who are planning to run for our government, who we are looking to put in our seat of government. These are the people who he speaks on behalf of. These are the people who he supports. So you have to now sit and wonder, and myself as a young person, and I always say that, and I said that to someone the other day, if you are trying to woo me to vote for your party, you are sorely losing at doing that. Because if you want somebody to support you, you could never be condemning them and badgering them or their ideas or what they choose to do. You have to find a way to do it nicely, to do it respectably. I always say you don't have to support government. You don't have to support Dr. Mitchell. As a matter of fact, you don't have to support anybody. But when you address people, you address them respectably, because everyone is deserving of it. You know, you don't just go out there blatantly disrespecting people because you don't like it. And the only reason he feels comfortable, Mr. Bola, and I will say this, to go on public radio and do this is because he knows that he has the support of some.
Of course he does.
And that is why he feels comfortable to do it. Because if we don't support this lawlessness and this looseness, it will not continue to happen. Or it may continue, but he may not feel inclined to do it because he's not receiving the support.
So the question that needs to be asked is, sometimes when there are certain things that, or one of the questions, it's not the only one, like this that happens, when the shoe is on the other feet, you hear members of civil society coming out and speaking up against it.
Of course.
Defenders of democracy or some name like that, you know. Where are the people who around election time always comes up with this organization that they have that wants to be the scrutineers and the watchers of the electoral process, because democracy is what they want to see. You know, where are these people now to stand up. To stand up. People like Gino. And to say, and I call that name, it's not the only name. So I don't want anybody to think I'm labeling any particular person. But I'm saying, where are these people who are so concerned about our institutions and wanting to see them stand up and be respected? Can they not call out Mr. Jones at this time? Can they not publicly write to him like they would write to some politicians or some other minister at times and publish it, and ask that he respect the office of or the institution that he's attacking? Yeah? I mean, sometimes you ask yourself, where and when does these people become alive?
Or not only that, it goes to show the motives as well.
Probably so too.
I'm very disappointed, and I mean,
the silence is so loud that we can't even hear what they're saying.
It's very sad, and I felt like we needed to talk about it this morning because this is not the usual line that I take, but this thing hit me so hard when I heard it, and then when I looked at the actual video and I looked at the comments underneath, and I saw people clapping hands in praise of him and saying yes, yes. And I wondered to myself, is this what we are coming to as a society? Where we just feel good and feel comfortable with all of this bacchanal and melee?
Well, I don't think the society is coming to that. There are still a lot of sensible people in this country. There's still a lot of people that accepts not everything that is done by the government, but give credit where credit is due. Yes? And I think there's just this small group, this minority, almost like a cult, that believe within themselves that they could go about disrespecting and saying nasty things and trying to castigate the name and defame people. And that is what is going to bring them superiority. That is what is going to bring them notice. It is like some little children, when you tell them not to do something because it is wrong, or you don't want them to do it, and they will listen to you, but when they see a little crowd or they see a few people around, they go and do the very same thing that you ask them not to, because that will draw attention to them. I mean, it is a little bit disheartening, but that is the way in which Mr. Jones has to get some kind of recognition, because he says nothing of value. He doesn't offer anything on his program. He has never said anything that is going to bring improvement to the lives of anyone since he has started this program. All he does is trample, is break down, is mash up. There's nothing building about what he does or says. So to get attention and to get listenership and to get some notice, he has to go down that line. And it's really pitiful. And I hope he will sit and he will reflect. And he will listen to himself. And he will recognize that if he wants to be a person of value, if he wants to get respect from the Grenadian public, if he wants to bring and draw support to his political organization, he has to first give respect, or else he will never get.
Absolutely. I very much agree with that, Mr. Bola. And I really hope that the listening public would take notice of these things, and let us come to a place where we don't start supporting things simply because we find that, well, I don't like the government, so that person, they against them, I'll go be against them too. Because, and I'll bring this up here, because it's basically the same thing that's happening with the Bus Association, huh? And I will publicly give my stand on the issue. I don't think what they're doing at this time, and I want to stress on at this time, is the right thing to do. We understand as a people that the public transportation system, it requires a lot. Maintenance of buses, you have to pay, you have to buy gas, you have to pay your insurance, parts are expensive. I understand that and I sympathize with them. Now, I'll be honest. Under normal circumstances, Mr. Bola, if they ask for a 50 cents increase, I ain't flinching. Under normal circumstances. But these are not normal circumstances. We are not in normal times. You understand? So, them asking the Grenadian people, so because we have to understand the context in which this is being asked. There are a lot of people that are going to be able to afford it, like me. 50 cents on the bus, on the bus price, it doesn't move me that much. But you also have people in society that it moves. And these are the people that actually use the bus more. The people that this will affect are the people that the people that are here speaking the most are people who don't even use the bus. They have their own private transportation. They ain't jumping on a bus on the terminal, but they're jumping up with busmen because they feel like this is something against government, and because it is something against government, they're jumping up too. Let us be honest. Let us be real. Buses at this point asking for an increase in the price, and I'm saying this publicly, is not the best decision. And it is not the best decision because you are asking the traversing public to cough up money that they have not been receiving for the past 3 months to pay the bus so they can get to work. And that is the sad thing, you know. You have families to feed. We understand that. But by not running, you are also preventing the same Grenadian people that have to pay the 50 cents from going to work and earning a salary to feed their families as well. You know, and that is where my gripe is. So we have gas prices, Mr. Bola, that is at an all-time low. I think gas is about $11 now a gallon. So gas is at an all-time low. Busmen now do not have to pay that $2 every time they enter the terminus, right? That has been shut off for a while.
Waived, yes.
Right? So now you are asking people, at a time when all of these things have been afforded to you, you are asking Grenadian people, the people who are traversing the buses. And mind you, there are some of them that say, well, that $2 thing don't bother me because I don't always go into the terminal. But you also ask the same Grenadians you're asking for 50 cents are the same Grenadians when you ask them to drop you by NIS and when you ask them to drop you on the bottom of Market Hill, they do it with ease. I could sit down in the bus and say, well, I ain't dropping in, I drop me on the terminus. But we understand, and we have been understanding over the past few years, and all we are asking for at this time, in the midst of a crisis where everybody is equally suffering, to be understanding as well. At the end of the day, what is this all going to prove? You know, I believe that there are some of them that are behaving as if government very spitefully said to them, carry 10 people. You know?
Well, in fact, listening to Shaggy this morning, there was one who identified himself as a bus owner and driver that actually said the government doesn't care. The government doesn't care about them. And you know, indeed, this is a very delicate situation.
Very much.
And I am not saying that when I listen to all the factors, that the busman doesn't have some level of justification. They do, because you are asking them to move from a situation where they would have carried 16 or 18 in some instances passengers as a full load, and you've reduced that to 10 passengers for the purposes of public safety, right, which is something that government has to take into consideration. And for the people who are talking strongly for one side or the next, government or busmen or whoever, please note and understand, and I've made this point here before, since the early days when COVID just started coming in. Leadership is not about one sector or one group.
Yeah.
Now, in making a decision for or against, the government and the officials who are sitting with the busmen have a lot of factors and a lot of groups to consider. The vulnerable, the marginalized, the unemployed, the employed, and even the employed in a situation like now. So take someone who, for example, works in the tourist sector, who works in a hotel. Most hotels are, if not totally empty, are partially empty. Mm-hmm. So which means that the number of days per month that any one person may get working in one of the hotels may be reduced. Sometimes, right, in some instances, by half, right? So it means that that person now has a reduced income to the house. Government has to consider that.
Yeah.
What about the home where the father was into construction or something else, and now he's laid off, and only the mother is working, or the mother is laid off and only the father? Reduced income. You want to take up?
Yeah, I see this person calling. Let's take it quickly. Good morning.
And then I'll come back.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, is this HARDTALK?
It is.
Why all you keep on lying to the...
All right. No. let me be very clear, and I want to be very clear. I accept all, Mr. Bowler, opinions from all sides. But anytime you call this program, call it with respect. If you call and you say we lying, I will cut you off, because you have to call with a point or an opinion. Don't call and tell me I'm lying, because I will never come on public radio and sit and lie to the Grenadian public, right? Nobody will disrespect me or you, Mr. Bowler, in that way. I will not have it. So caller, rephrase your question and call again. Let's take this other call. Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan. Good morning to you, Mr. Bowler.
Good morning, sir.
And first of all, let me say, forget about people who is taking the truth and thinking that the truth is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
But my point, my contribution this morning is, now, Mr. Humphrey, I personally never agreed with him on 110% of things that he would have said or how he would have done things. However, for years, I have been clamoring in the Senate for, I don't know if I should say a re-establishment of, we had the NTA, the NTS or the PTS.
We had both.
He was,
both NTS
right,
and PTS.
he was clamoring for donkey years for a re-establishment of National Transportation Service. So my question to you, Mr. Bowler, seeing that you has been there in government,
Mm-hmm.
Has the government ever considered re-establishing a National Transportation Service? And I'm asking that because if that was considered, if we let's say if we had that now, that we would not have been going through this thing with the busmen, because now what you have from 5 students is going to be going back out to school, and you're talking also about problems for them getting to school and from school. So would they reach in class in time? We don't know, because there is an issue with the bus. So that's my question. Did the government ever consider that, or did they just see Mr. Humphrey as just talking, quote unquote? And I'm saying that not for people to call and make all kind of bad comments. It's just, I just want to get this out. So
Okay.
Thank you. I'll listen online.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, caller.
Before you answer that question, Mr. Bowler, we're going to answer that last question, but we also have the live video coming, or the live feed coming across from the Prime Minister. He's sitting with Aruna this morning on Boss FM, so we want to carry that live as well. The interview is for about half of an hour, so once the interview is over, guys, we will be back here again to continue the discussion. So we're going to go live, Mr. Bowler, and then we're going to come back with that question, because it's already started.
Complete new situation that we had when we celebrated the end of 2019 and looked forward to 2020. We clearly did not know that we would be facing a new dimension in not just Grenada and the Caribbean, but the entire world community. So we all have to change our approaches in many areas to confront the problems that we now face at this particular time.
So prior to COVID-19, how are we looking from an economic standpoint? And, what were some of the projections your government would have had?
We were looking at 5 to 6% growth, with a number of major projects, and of course with the continued expansion of St. George's University activities, and more students and multiple of other programs are being brought on stream. So, and we were looking very good. Our tourism product was doing well. We were expanding opportunities in many areas. The cruise ship season, the projections was good. But clearly, COVID-19 interfered with all of that. So we've seen our revenue for the first 2 months surpassing the target of the average of $30+ million, surpassing that in both inland revenue and customs. Since COVID, they're less than 50%. This month, it looks like we might reach a 55 to 60% revenue projection as we move towards opening some of our activities gradually. So with the construction sector getting back on stream, I think we'll start seeing some movement there. But it's still a major challenge in terms of what we have to deal with now as opposed to what we had confronted before.
Talking about challenges, as the Prime Minister and of course leader, what are some of the challenges you envision going heading into the rest of the year?
Well, the first priority for us is the issue of the loss of jobs by a large sector of our population. When you look at just Royal Ton, for example, which was planning to have a major opening very soon, and had employed over 300 plus persons, and looking at further employment for the opening of their facility. That, of course, we've lost all those jobs during COVID. So I think the emphasis has to be how much of those persons we can see regain employment as quickly as possible. So helping the hotel sector to get back on stream would be a priority. And clearly, even when they open, they would not be the level of business that they had envisaged before. So we would clearly understand that they would not be employing all those persons back on immediately. So we'd have to look for additional jobs. So that in itself is a challenge, and clearly opportunities that we can create. And in several areas, other hotel properties, or they all will take some time before you start seeing some serious movement in hotel activities in 2020. So it will take, and even going into 2021. So I think the job loss is going to be a major challenge for government, and we have to come up with ways and means of helping and supporting these workers and creating opportunities as best as possible. So I see this as a major challenge going forward. Job creation.
I'm happy you raised the point of unemployment.
The health issue, we clearly have to, it is clear that all the protocols will have to be placed to protect the health. As I said yesterday in another program, health first, everything else is secondary. So while we are attempting to create jobs and to bring back an economic activity as much as possible, we have to come to terms that we have to protect the health of the population, because if you do not have health, money and material things mean nothing to you.
I'm happy that you mentioned unemployment. Mr. PM, on my program yesterday, in which the NIS were guests, it was stated that the National Insurance Board was instructed by Cabinet and engaged a consulting firm based in Canada to design, cost, and advise on the introduction of a temporary unemployment assistance benefit. Now, I'm sure you would have been privy to rumblings of it being insufficient. And of course, you might say government has nothing to do with the overall running of the NIS. Now, bearing in mind that unemployment benefits aren't part of NIS's mandate, your thoughts now on moving forward and including unemployment benefits to the other benefits that they provide and also the status of the national health insurance?
Well, if the word instruction the cabinet was given, let me first say that it would be an unfortunate word. I would say we advise the NIS as a responsible government and recognizing that the number of persons, workers that would have lost their jobs because of this event, COVID-19. We advise them that they need to look at, and we in fact advise what we thought was a reasonable amount that they can look at, but it was up to the board. A group, it's the workers' money, and if the workers are under pressure, clearly the workers' money has to be used to some extent to help. So I just want to clarify this in a very special way. But to add, the NIS, of course, is an independent body. Government has represented, but we do not have even a third. I don't believe in a third of the representation on the board. So clearly the majority of members are workers and employers representative, majority of members of the board. So they, of course, in their own wisdom, their own decision-making process, decided that they would make some commitment, some workers' support for 6 months, and that the average can be able to make, because I was not party to the decision-making process. So I think if, as I mentioned in another program yesterday, if the workers have difficulty with what is being proposed, what is going to be given, then their responsibility to speak to the representatives on the board, because the workers have a major say as to the policy decision of the NIS. And of course, the employers who are also combined with the union representation are far the more outstreet for the government representative on the board. So I suggest that they do so. And whatever they agree to, government representative will certainly support. I think that would be government position.
And what about the national health insurance?
That of course, because of COVID-19, took a back seat. But this is a priority for the government. So time frame for completion of it may change somewhat. But the objective and the policy to go forward and to finalize the NHI, which of course, COVID-19 is also saying to us, this is absolutely necessary. It brings in the point home that we need to have a national health insurance scheme that is financed appropriately, that can take care of the health needs of every worker in the country as we go forward.
Okay. The stimulus packages that have been designed for various institutions, how is this progressing?
Well, so far we have had tremendous response from the public as a whole. I want to make the point that so far over 2,570 employees have, of course, received payroll support, and which is quite a lot, as you would reckon. For taxis, 145 taxis have, of course, benefited. The vendors, 71 vendors have so far got, and buses support from those who have come forward already. 325 income bus support has been made already by the COVID Secretariat. I remember that's in addition to the number of buses that were contracted by ministries and government agencies and so on, who are being paid by the usual budget. So that's an additional support. So there clearly a lot of other buses have been paid directly. So, and we are continuing to pay those who come forward and meet the basic conditions. So yesterday, for example, I had to correct one of my friends in media when it was said the majority of buses have not got support. I wanted to make the point that a lot of buses have been paid already.
So apart from the stimulus package, also a part of the stimulus package of which busmen are a part of, based on conversations with them on another program yesterday, they've said they've asked for certain concessions, etc., to help, cover operational costs, and that government has turned down all of their requests. Now, understand.
It's unfortunate that the bus association, I don't know the representation. Don't forget, we do not have a real serious organized national bus organized situation. They have a limited level of membership in the bus association, as I understand it, and I hope I'm correct. And therefore, the ministry had consultation, the Ministry of Transport, with the bus association from the minister's report. And of course, it is known that government is subsidizing or paying stimulus monies to a lot of the bus owners to support their drivers and conductors and so on, as I just mentioned. So government is already helping the busmen and bus association in general. So that is there. Besides that, many of the busmen got contracts with different ministries to bring into staff into work during the COVID by at least a third. So there is serious savings from that standpoint. So they came forward and indicated government. Remember, government revenues are now dropped considerably. So, and government is helping a lot of workers in the private sector and so on. So government has tremendous demands. Government is also helping buses and with bus payments. But they have come and asked for additional 50 cents. That was the recommendation that they asked the government for. The minister indicated that he will bring the information before the minister by himself can't raise the bus price overnight. So before the cabinet would have met, the next thing I hear about a possible strike. I thought that was unfortunate. And I thought the leadership of the bus association must get their act together. That you cannot threaten a government into submission. That if you have a serious and reasonable position, then you wait for a response. The cabinet has not yet given you a response. This is a controversial matter where for some members of the public would be feeling that maybe that's okay. And the busmen might be feeling that's okay. But there are a lot of people who also feel conversely. So my thing is, why then would you not wait for a response? But when you make a threat, you put the government in a very difficult, unfortunate position that you already took a decision. So I think it's unfortunate that was done, and I think the bus association must get their act together. They hope to have serious responsibility in relationship with any government or any institution. They must operate in a more responsible way. I have great difficulty with this. If the government was to yield now, it looked like we were blackmailed into submission, and that would be any government does this will not be able to govern. So anytime somebody wants something, they just make a threat. That's not how you run any serious business, and I don't think. I just have to speak as Prime Minister of the country that I thought it was extremely unfortunate. And I am not commenting on the validity of the decrease. If you notice that, Aruna, I'm not saying they were right or wrong. I'm simply saying the approach with dealing with the government was unprofessional and unfortunate.
Somebody here is asking, what is the criteria for the receipt of payroll support, as many businesses have not yet had any response to their applications?
No, we have stated openly that we are prepared to help each bus for support to the buses of 800 per person, and we indicate that they must register with the NIS and with the Inland Revenue Department, because we must have accountability in the process going forward. And that we have stated so, but we clearly also say to them, if you have a contract with a government body during this period that you're making serious resources with that contract, then you cannot get stimulus support. Similarly, if you have a contract, and we was able to get information with the private sector also. If you are making thousands of dollars in the private sector with a contract, then clearly you can't get stimulus. So it has to be busmen and buses who are not contracted to by either government agencies or body or ministries or the private sector. They were the only basic conditions. So no one would be prevented or not given support if he or she meets those basic conditions and qualify, that we would deny them the right for that. So, and it's still available. So they have a responsibility. I think the COVID Secretariat Committee, who has been working night and day, are planning to do a series. The announcement was not for just the mainland Grenada, for all.
Mm-hmm.
The COVID Secretariat was the ones who came to me and said, Prime Minister, we're getting a lot of applications from the mainland, but we see nothing from Carriacou and Peter Martin, and we know there were buses there. There were businesses there who were marginalized also. And therefore, we want you to speak to the powers to be in Carriacou and indicate to them that there is a serious lack of response for support. So we were asking people to come and get their fair share of what the government was offering. So I'm just saying that those who are not now, remember also, Aruna, there is also a problem with COVID, with the COVID-19 and the emergency operation. A lot of workers were not working. So many of these workers that are coming to work were making enormous sacrifices for themselves and their families by coming in. Now, mention around, I need to add that you have to have an account with a bank. And some of them did not have an account. And some of them who gave account gave wrong accounts. Some of them who gave account to one bank was in another bank. So some of the monies went to banks and had to be returned to the Secretariat. So there were a number of challenges with it. Unfortunately, what should have happened, those who they met the conditions and felt they did not get a response on time, they should have called the Secretariat and they would have corrected it, because some checks came back to the Secretariat returned by different banks and different financial institutions in the process. I hope I've clarified this, Aruna, using this program as a base.
Great. Mr. PM, in terms of, maintaining the balance of safeguarding public health and safety and keeping the economy alive, and also as we prepare to reopen the borders, what's the plan moving forward?
Well, the COVID-19 subcommittee cabinet appointed team has been working and with the local hoteliers. There are a number of things that have to be put in place, and looking at the whole protocol for when the borders are open, someone is coming in from New York or wherever they're coming from. What are the conditions that we will ensure must take place for them to be allowed into the country and be able to move around as they wish? That is being done. We had to also work with all the hotels to make sure they have systems in place, protocols to make sure they sanitize them. System is in order in every single hotel property, because we're already in place and we have the system in place for testing people when they come in. Then they could come in June. That would be okay. But if you come in a commercial airline that is picking up passengers for any hotel in the country and having to go to any part of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, then clearly there's some additional work that must be done to allow the border. So border opening has to be something that is done. The airlines must have systems in place. The hotels, in general, must have that, and of course, the government, the Ministry of Health, must have all the protocols established in doing so. So these are some of the fundamental things that we are working on. And remember, when we open up, some people are saying that it's the Caribbean first. If you open up, some countries in the region opening up for international travel early in June, and you open up regional things. Somebody could come from Antigua, where they can, and they say they're taking Liat to Grenada. What do you do? So in other words, we can't just do it like this. There must be an agreement, and the work we've been working together at the heads of the OECS down on where we are today, that the COP subcommittee and the Ministry of Health and the task force response for tourism and yachting area and so on have now decided that June 30th looked like the date we think we will be able. We're working towards to ensure that we can have our borders open at that particular time. We are hoping we can do it earlier, but based on all the systems that had to be put in place, it didn't look practical at all.
Because one can understand the concern, bearing in mind that the very first case that we had of COVID-19 was imported. So one can understand, folks' concern about, opening up of borders, etc. Plus, we have, lots of Grenadians who probably would have went on vacation or business or whatever in other countries, and they're exhausted or overstayed their welcome and need to return home.
Well, in fact, there was a proposal on the table with many Grenadians who are abroad in certain cities. And what we had indicated, if they got together as individuals and they could contract an airline to take them in, and they meet the conditions that we agree on for testing before you come, testing when you arrive, and making sure that they're all clear, we are prepared to allow them on a special case. Like I did on June 30th for the formal opening.
Mr. PM, something I've noticed and I've mentioned in numerous forums, COVID-19 has exposed a lot of inefficiencies and flaws, and at the same time, it has, some benefits, has brought some benefits with it. Some might say, well, how? But being that, technology for the longest while has been something we've always heard you talking about. COVID has exposed the need for us to be more tech savvy on almost every level, because I'm sure you'd not have imagined that we would be doing this virtual interview right now. You would be present in studio, but here we are.
I would have come there.
Running the nation on technology. So bearing that in mind, will we see improvements being made to the different sectors or the different ministries? So I wouldn't have to run to this ministry and look through paper to go through another one and be all over the place.
Yes, this is an excellent point. And as you know, as the Prime Minister responsible for science and technology in the region, I sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable with the fact that our countries, there's been so much resistance in terms of within the public sector in getting us to utilize the technology a lot more. I think COVID-19 has certainly forced our hand, and to some extent, as you said, it's a blessing in disguise. In that aspect, I must point out, isolatedly so. So I think people are now realizing that we could have used a lot of the things that we're doing. Even, for example, the question of the payment of salaries. We spend a lot of money issuing papers and issuing checks and so on. Well, electronic transfer to the banks. If you have an account, it makes the job of government and so much cheaper. We're saving a lot of money. And the persons who are receiving checks save time and effort and cost in terms of collection of their salary or the revenue that government owes them. So there are lots of benefits that have come from this. Even, for example, travel to the region. A lot of meetings are being held now at the prime ministerial level, at the secretariat level, the CARICOM secretariat and OECS secretariat, by virtually so. And we are solving problems that we could have done this and save us a lot of money through transport and a lot of stress that we go through in spending lots of hours at airports when flights do not come on time. So that has helped considerably. So I don't think we'll ever go back to always having these physical meetings on a regular basis. We will have them, but it would not be as constant and consistent as those areas, Carriacou or wherever, parts of Grenada. They don't have the technology skill, the technological skills. As a granddaughter or grandson or son or brother or something can help you with that payment. So all this is going to reduce costs to the consumers considerably so and make things much easier. The question of the registry, all these things that we're going to do. The question of license, we should not have to come back into the ministry with long lines to pay bills and so on. All that would be a thing of the past. In addition, Aruna, and I need to make this point here today, we are already embarking on a program called Digital Governance Program, which is funded by with the first country in the OECS and in the region who has got support from the World Bank with a very soft financing of $15 million US, right? Which is over 40 million EC dollars, to embark on digital governance throughout the entire governmental system. So we are ahead of the game in that respect, and some major decisions are going to be made in terms of moving the project forward. In fact, there's a Caribbean component of that project, which is going to meant to increase the services in the region of how we operate with each other at various levels in the CARICOM region. So that is another component. The OECS that of the project. So it will make business between the region and the business with MGRM that now gives us the opportunity to a lot of the services that we're talking about, even before we get the digital governance project in place. And that is being used now by the Ministry of Education while they are home. Teachers were trained. Some of them need to upgrade their skills in that area, but that is a work in progress. So that a lot of children are being taught home now through this virtual platform that we have. And I think the OECS is now wanting to embark on this program. And when they came forward at the Ministry of Education, Ministers of Education meeting recently that they had virtually, when we pointed out that we were ahead of the game, these countries were shocked. They did not realize that Grenada has a platform already that can provide serious educational services. We are the only country in the OECS that was ahead of the game in that program. So I am confident that where we are right now, we're in a good wicket, and that we should use the COVID-19 lessons to modernize our operation of government and modernize every aspect of development in our country.
I know you have to run, but I have two more questions before you go.
Sure, go ahead.
Piggybacking off of one of my colleagues, Mr. PM, over the past couple of weeks, even when we were on lockdown, I am seeing the police making major hauls of marijuana and millions they're quoting of marijuana on drug busts for the past couple of weeks. So when are we going to have that conversation, Mr. Prime Minister? Whether it's decriminalization, you're seeing other countries saying they're making how much they're growing and exporting and doing all these things, and we are burning, and yet still we are saying, our economy is in the red, we're not making enough money, we can't do this, we can't do that, but we're burning money literally. When are we going to have that conversation about marijuana? When are we going to put on the table?
We should have the conversation. Conversation should have started, but of course we have to weigh the pros and cons. I don't think we're seeing the police moving persons with having marijuana here and there. The police spending the time on this. Why in the books? But I think the whole question of commercial activities as far as marijuana. And don't forget, Aruna, while we're talking marijuana, people use the opportunity as they have noticed to go to the higher level of drugs. So it's not just a question of marijuana, other drugs that are used in this period. So we have to be very careful in going forward. We'd have to engage the population in a general sense, but I know this is still indeed a controversial issue, and anytime you have an issue of this nature, no matter how you feel, you have to be very careful in how you go forward in implementing such an initiative.
So final question before we go, how would you rate governments and of course our frontline workers' overall handling of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I'll rate the workers A+ because of their performance and the sacrifices they were making, and they're at all levels in the society. Not all the workers I must say that there's a tendency when we speak loosely. If there is a weakness in an area, we say, well, public service workers not working. That's not true. Similarly, it's wrong to say that, oh, the public workers are doing so well, so we need to give them increases. Some of them are, not all of them. Similarly, I would not go and say all medical workers must be given during COVID period, because some stepped up to the plate, some hid. That's a fact. And therefore, we have to identify the category and groups of workers in every single area and give them the credit and applaud the frontline workers in general who came forward and providing enormous service at this critical juncture at great sacrifices to themselves physically, emotionally, and otherwise. So I want to make this point. And you have the garbage collectors, for example. Sometimes we forget these people at this level. I was driving around during COVID period, and I see these garbage collectors with their face mask collecting garbage. And if they don't collect the garbage, the chances are COVID-19, if it's around, would spread even faster than we would have. So they have played an enormous part at great risk to themselves and to persons. But I do want to make the point. The cabinet of the country, the sacrifices are made by members. Some people have their own underlying health problems, while some people stayed home because they had it and we indicated to them to be careful. Some cabinet members had to come to work and be working and at great sacrifice to themselves physically and otherwise. So I want to applaud all of them, all who have made those enormous sacrifices. So I am not going to be here. There's some people, and I've seen some leaders grading themselves A. I will not do that. I don't think I should be grading myself, but I will not give myself an A. I will not give the government an A. I believe we've tried our best. I think we have done a lot of excellent work, but I think there have been shortcomings. And I'm the first to admit this. You know, I believe COVID-19 was something that none of us was prepared for. I clearly, there's some things in looking back, if we are more prepared, we could have done it differently. There's no doubt in my mind. So I wouldn't give myself an A, but at the same time, I don't think I would want to grade myself. For me.
Mr. PM, you have to come back in the room because we have a lot of questions that we still need to ask. We haven't touched on the whole agriculture and the outcome of it as a result of COVID and some of the things you'd have exposed as well. We have to touch the whole minimum wage and all of that. So we're looking for a commitment from you that you'll be back in the ladies' room so we can continue the conversation.
How could I refuse to be back with you, Aruna? How could I refuse to be back in the ladies' room? If you stay away from the ladies, then you are going to be hurt in every sense of the word. And this Prime Minister, you know, will never stay away from ladies. Just remember that. So I look forward to being back in the ladies' room not long from now.
Final word for you, go.
Yeah, just to say this is, I felt this was a very excellent program. I think Aruna, you've been doing an excellent job in communicating with the public, the relaxed approach to how you do this program. This is certainly catching on in the country as a whole. I want to commend you and your station for the excellent work that you're doing in communicating with the population as usual.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Looking forward to having you back again. Thanks so much.
Look forward.
Bye-bye. And that is your ladies' room for today. And of course, for this week, we'll be back next week with another edition of our ladies' room. And of course, it came to you through the kind compliments of Western Union, Subway, and Beacon Insurance. Thank you so very much to all the folks who were for today. And of course, for this week, we'll be back.
All right, guys. And all right, guys, and we are back. Of course, that was an interview with our Honorable Prime Minister, of course, with Aruna at the Ladies' Room. He's been doing a series of those interviews. He did GBN to the Point yesterday. He was on the Spice Radio last night. Sister Al Radio last night. He was with Aruna shortly. And, of course, he will be on Mikey Live tonight as well. For those of you who missed him today, he will be on Mikey Live. I believe it's 6. Nazim, is it 6 or 7 tonight with Mikey? Let me just get that time quickly and I will share it with you. But of course, as I always say, at 6, it's confirmed. At 6 o'clock tonight, he would be on Mikey Live. Now, as I always said, and this was an issue that... Oh, and 8 o'clock tomorrow, he'll be with Shaggy. That is correct. Now, this is an issue, Mr. Bowler, that I always think that we must address. and we'll go back to the bus thing because we have a couple minutes remaining. But I think, and I always say, information is information. As long as it is factual information, it will never change. As long as it is facts. Now, there were some people who said that, oh, Prime Minister should not come on this program and speak when he's speaking to the nation. And I keep telling people, if you want to know what's going on, if you want to know what's happening, if you want to be informed, then listen to the various programs. Get the information. All media houses are welcome to invite the Prime Minister to speak on their platform. All media houses. As long as your interest is in ensuring that the people get the information, then I see no problem. But you know, there are a few people out there who would never invite him on their platform because their interest is not in getting correct information to the people. Their interest is always in propaganda, say, he say, she say, and, you know, trying to discredit our Prime Minister. So I must say, of course, good job, Aruna. I believe that a lot of issues were covered, and as I tell her, 30 minutes could never enough when you're speaking to the Prime Minister, because there is a lot of things to talk about. A lot of people do want a lot of answers, and some people may not listen to us because they feel we bias, Mr. Bola, but we don't care. We will continue to share information with the general public as long as we have life and breath, right? That's what we're here for.
You don't care. I care. And you should care. You should care what people think about you. You may not and will not be in a position to change what they think about you or stop what they think about you, because we have no control over people's action. But the only thing we can control is our reaction to their action.
But it shouldn't affect my day-to-day life.
No, it shouldn't affect you.
Right.
Yeah, but, you know, self introspection is something that is necessary from time to time.
Now, Mr. Paula, I want us to go back to the bus situation because I know you were going to make a comment before that. And I want the people to know that, and I said it publicly, nobody is attacking the busmen. And I want people to understand that. There is no attack on the busmen. All that we are saying is, one, this is not the time for this because everybody making sacrifices. Look, the same supermarket, in some of the supermarkets, as I understand, some of the workers, their pays have been cut in half, you know, and these are the people who stood with us through quarantine to ensure that we had food and to ensure that we could meet our basic needs. And these are the people who travel on the bus, you know? So while I understand and I sympathize with the fact that, yes, insurance has to pay, and yes, these people that you are asking to cough up the extra money also have needs that need to be met. House mortgages to pay, loans to pay, and their salaries have also been affected. So it's give and take, and you have to be very cautious in how you approach things. Because right now, what it looks like we have a situation where the public transportation is a need, and they are using the fact that this is a need to get what they want. And that's what it looks like. That may not be what is going on in their minds, but to us, that is what it appears that you are trying to hold the government ransom with a strike and say, okay, we're going to shut down the tongue. Because I heard it for myself yesterday, Mr. Bola. I was on the terminus, and I heard a gentleman say, shut down the tongue. What are they working for? You know? And that is the kind of mentality that some of the busmen have. And he is a busman. I know him. You know? It is not a matter of, okay, well, we have problems and we have needs that need to be met, and we are looking for ways to compromise and to meet those needs and all of that. Shut down the tongue.
Well, you see, with situations, there is sometimes a lot of emotionalism. And that is why we say you need to think, you need to stop. You need to, you know, in fact, Barry has a song that says you need to count to 10 sometimes before you take action. The point I was making, or I was in the process of making when we had to cut instantly, is that in arriving at a decision, such as the one with the busmen, government has a lot of sectors and many things to take into consideration. It is not just a straight yes or no with government. Yeah. It is not yes, we can give or we cannot. And in fact, government is not the one that will be paying. It is the traveling public, as was mentioned before. Yep. Government acts as a regulator. Because remember, these are private bus owners, yes? They are all owned privately. And the caller who asked the question whether or not government has ever considered a reintroduction of the public transport system, which was the PTS, or the NIS as they used to call it before. Not NIS, NTS, sorry.
NTS.
National Transport Service. Now, there are many things, again, that government considered when they looked at that. The era in which we had those systems operating was different to now. Not just the system of governance, but the fact that there was not that much private individuals owning buses like we have now.
Right.
Yes? So that is one consideration. The level of travelers that you have. Now, you will be cutting into the investment, significant investment, because buses are expensive. The insurance is expensive, and we know.
Yeah.
Maintenance and so on. Now, if government was to cut in and bring in several of these huge buses and operate a subsidized system, you will be cutting into whatever little profits that these private individuals, and you want to encourage private investment. You want local people to feel that an opportunity is created. Like we say, government can't do everything on its own, but government can help to create the enabling environment where we can then invest. And you hear it from the Prime Minister many times. You hear it from experts, economists, and so that tells you the private sector is who and what will drive the economy.
Yeah.
So it is one thing to say, oh, there's a loophole, there's a need for the public transport, but you have to balance it off with how much will you be getting on or eroding that confidence of the private man to invest. Would government now be taking a portion of what that has? So in all those considerations, it was felt that at the time, it was not the best thing to do. Now, let's presume that this situation develops into one where there is massive transportation strike and the country is being held ransom. It may then force government to relook and rethink the decision that they have made before. In addition to that, there may be other options that are available. So as opposed to government then saying, let us bring in buses and create a system of transportation, there are a lot of people who in Grenada own several of these large buses that are specific for hire. They don't do the everyday traversing on the road, picking up and dropping off passengers. And maybe government can look at having a contractual arrangement. We have someone mentioned this morning that the children should be starting school, the Form 5s, and I think those that may be involved in doing the CPA.
No, there's no, just Form 5.
Just the Form 5s, and so how do we get them to school? Government is looking at all of those things, yes? They are looking at what alternatives can be put in place. So I don't think that we need to be too worried as to whether or not there will be transportation. Neither do I believe that, instantly government is going to say, let us start to operate a bus service. Because you want to give that freedom and that leeway to the private sector.
Of course.
To do what you're doing with a certain level of autonomy. They have the right to think. Right. But getting back to the issue of increase itself, like I said in the beginning, it may well be justified. A number of things. And I recall being in one of the meetings where they were looking at the economics. We look at gas price, we look at everything else. And we concluded that even now that there is a drop in gas price, that by itself may not be sufficient to cushion the losses of traveling with less passengers.
Right.
But it is necessary to put the protocol in place to travel with less passengers.
Right.
Because COVID-19 is still very real.
Right.
And you cannot take the chances, yes? So you have to weigh them, protection versus profit. Yes? Life versus money.
Right.
We have to weigh all those things. And one looked at the calculation. And I spoke about reduction in income to the home. One parent is now not working, the other one is working, or one may get reduced days. A number of different scenarios that may result. Salaries have to be cut in some instances to keep you on the job because the economic activities has slowed down. COVID had created that. And this is not something that the government created. COVID came. We didn't expect it. Although There's a piece that President Obama did while he was in office where he mentioned, and he gave a time span, and COVID came about that time where he mentioned that there would be an outbreak of something that would affect the entire world. So I don't know if he had visions or whatever. But most of us, the vast majority of the world's population was not prepared. It took us by storm. It is a costly thing to deal with. And so government are looking at several options. And the very thing that I had in mind to say, the Prime Minister said it there, that the negotiations are ongoing. It is a demand that the busmen made. And I don't believe that the Ministry of Transport said to them, no, we're not giving. They have to work it out. Some people are of the opinion that 50 cents is not a lot. But here's what. If you have two people in a house that goes to work on a daily basis, depending on where they go and where they're coming from, they may have to use two buses. So that's $1 for the first bus for two, another $1 for the second bus by two, and that's only in the morning. When you factor in the afternoon, so you're actually looking already for the adults that are working, parent, mother, and father, $4 increase per day if they're using two buses.
Yeah.
But let us also factor in that that family has two children that has to go to school.
Right.
Yeah? That's another $4 or $2 because they may have to use one bus, for example, to get to school. So 50 in the morning, 50 cents in the evening by 2. That's $2. 4 plus 2, that's $6 a day. 6 times 5 days a week, that's $30 for 1 week. Right? 1 week times 4 is $120 increase. So 50 cents by itself appears to be a small increase.
Yeah.
And that is if I'm traveling occasionally. But what if I'm hitting the bus stand every day?
Like me, I take 4 buses a day, and it's
2 in the
myself
morning
and my 2 children.
Well, you travel.
I travel on 4 buses a day, myself and my children, 4 buses.
So do the math, and you would see that for you alone, it is $2 increase per day, and then your 2 children, so that's like $6 for you.
Yeah.
Because only use 2 buses.
Yeah.
Right? To get to work and to school.
And I already spend $400 a month on transportation.
Right. Now, whose problem is that? Is it the busman's problem? Absolutely not. Because he has to survive and his business has to be profitable. But it is also a concern for you. And these are the factors that government has to take into consideration. So, like I said, the decision is not just clear-cut. Leadership is not just about the noise in the market. I keep saying that. It's about being able to assess and to look with critical eyes and to see beyond the tip of your nose.
Yeah.
You cannot be myopic in your view. So to arrive at a decision overnight, it's a difficult thing. So we are pleading to the people, and I have heard some people say that busmen are greedy and they worthless, and so I don't think that's a proper statement to make.
Yeah.
Right? One can say they need to be a little bit more considerate at this time.
Yeah.
And work with government, work with the traveling public, maybe say, let's walk through this thing for another month or 2, we'll reassess, and we can see when it's best to give an increase. Maybe an increase is necessary.
Yeah.
What we are stating is that at this present time, it is very difficult for some people, and there may be a few people who it may not affect as serious. It may not erode the limited income as badly as others. But we have to take all into consideration. We cannot just consider the few who are capable.
Yeah.
But we also have to look, as I said before, at the marginalized, the vulnerable. What about those who depends only, or the only income they have presently is the little thing that they're getting from the seed, from the government assistance program at the end of the month?
Yeah.
Yes? Would it now be able to match up for the entire month to make the payment for the buses for the children? You know. So consideration has to be given on all sides. There must be more dialogue. People have to make some compromise on either side, and I will suggest that some kind of an understanding down the line. The increase can come. People must prepare. The economy gets back going. Does it take a month, 2 months, 3 months? Would it still be necessary a month from now to limit the amount of passengers per bus? Or in a month time, would the health officials say, well, we are at the stage now where you can go back to full capacity, providing that everyone wears a mask?
Right.
You know, all of those things have to be put into the point. So it is not a situation that a decision that can be arrived at.
And as the Prime Minister said this morning, that they had not even made a decision in Cabinet yet when it reached them information of a strike. So even before that the decision was made for the buses to get back on the road and this is what needs to happen and so on, there was also threats of a strike.
Yeah.
You know, and I keep saying to us as a people that we are too aggressive. The first thing we think to do is to act aggressively to every situation. You see it with the unions, you now see it with the bus association, where we feel that the best decision in every situation where there is a disagreement is to cause either chaos, riot, or just shut everything down.
Well, we're living in a gun town. It's like everything I say, I pull a gun.
What
so
will
we have
we
to
do?
be very careful, because I know that negotiations was ongoing. I know that a demand was being made by the busmen that
Right.
we need this in order for us to be able to survive.
And from what I understand, not to cut you, their negotiation had a lot of suggestions. So I heard that a lot of suggestions came from on the busman side, and a lot of suggestions came from the government side. However, it's being said that every suggestion that the busmen give, they turn it down. However, I need us to understand this: that government is not just going to sit and look at a good idea and say no. There are a lot of factors, as you say, that they must take into consideration when a decision is being made. So the busmen may account for, and we saw over time, Mr. Bowler, but the busmen may account for 1,000 people in the population.
But we have 100,000.
But we have 100,000 people in the population,
Yep.
more than half of which use public transportation. So government have to also take them into consideration. So we have to look at it, and like I said, I am not in disagreement that maybe they need an increase. Maybe there is a valid reason as to why it must be increased. What I'm saying is the time is not appropriate, because we have so many families that are financially challenged because of COVID-19. It's not just you. It's a lot of us. So we have to take that into consideration, because with a 50-cent raise, it means that at the end of every month, I am going to be paying more than $700 a month in just transportation. Because I ain't come Saturday yet, when I go and make my little lime with them children.
Well, you may have to cut out liming. That's one of the things.
I might have to lobby to come to work 3 times a week.
Or you may decide, as opposed to gymming or something, that you walk home.
No.
So,
the gym is important.
It is sacrifice to be made on every part. Not just the busmen,
Yeah.
but every one of us have to decide, because we are in a new era. We keep saying that this is the new normal. COVID has brought something on us that we did not expect, that a lot of us did not plan for, did not prepare for, but it is the reality that we deal with now, and so we have to be prepared to make the necessary adjustments.
Yeah.
So it's not just the busmen need to do it, also the traveling public needs to do it, and we need to understand each other, meet each other halfway, balance this thing off, negotiate, let negotiation be the tool that we work with, and not going to the far end of antagonizing people. And please, let us stop the branding and the name calling, saying that government is wicked and not prepared to do anything, saying that busmen are greedy, saying that people don't want to pay money. I heard some people making the comparison that, everything else price going up, what are we worrying about 50 cents? It is more than just that.
It's more than just 50 cents.
Did say and did employ people and put people out to deal with what they refer to as price gouging. Some of the items that people was overly shoppers and so was overly bringing up the price, and government saw that as a factor that needs to be dealt with and prosecuted. So there is a lot to be done, and so let's keep an open mind. Let's be very civic in what we do. Let's discuss this thing in a very mature and very civic way.
Yes.
And at the end, let us get a decision that may not be the happiest decision for everyone, but something that we can work with until such time. So I want to thank you all very much for listening today, and of course, we shall talk again if I survive.
All right, guys. And on that note, we say, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe and to be secure. We always want to be talking with you and never about you. Please do enjoy the remainder of your day.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Strict measures to be implemented before fifth form students return to the classroom. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details of the news for Wednesday, May 27th, 2020, I am Sherian Noel. The Ministries of Education and Health have outlined strict measures that must be implemented and adopted before the reopening of schools on June 1st. The announcement of the protocols for parents and principals were highlighted by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Kevin Andel, during a press conference on Tuesday. Since March, government was forced to close schools due to the ongoing fight against COVID-19. However, with examinations scheduled to be held in July, students will be allowed to return to the classrooms to prepare. The protocols include the sanitization of schools and the need for functioning washroom facilities.
Before school reopens, the school compound must be sanitized according to guidelines approved by the Ministry of Health. 2. The Ministry of Education will contract additional cleaners and security officers, and all personnel would be oriented to perform routine cleaning and sanitizing according to approved protocols. The Ministry of Education will ensure that an adequate number of toilets and hand washing facilities on the school compound are functional.
He said parents must provide hand sanitizers and masks to ensure their child's safety. The onus is also on parents to inform the ministry or school of any pre-existing health condition.
All students will be required to wear a mask provided by parents. Parents or guardians are encouraged to notify principal through a print or electronic medium if children have pre-existing conditions, which would make it impossible for them to be at school.
Moving along, grade 6 students will not be sitting the 2020 Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment CPEA, but will be transitioned into secondary schools in the new school year. That announcement was made by the Minister for Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information, Honorable Emmeline Pear, on Tuesday. Minister Pierce said the decision was made following consultation and dialogue with the Principals Association, the representing union, parents, and key stakeholders. She explained that the exams were cancelled this year because it is not as high stake in the group of Caribbean examinations.
The Ministry of Education recommends not having current grade 6 students sit the scheduled assessment, but rather to have them transition or to secondary schools based on a composite score for each student to be derived from the following. A. Internal CPA assessment scores from CXC. B. Grade 5 minimum competency test scores. C. Grade 4 minimum competency test scores 2018 and grade 5 2019, of course.
The CCSLC exam will be deferred to 2021. However, CSEC exams will be held beginning July 13th. According to Minister Pierre, CSEC could not have been deferred to 2021 due to the complications involved in accommodating the volume of students.
The CSEC examination 2020 be done in 2020 and should not be deferred to 2021. However, deferred arrangements for students with underlying conditions or special circumstances must be considered.
A timeline for the placement of CPA students will be announced at a later date. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Distance makes the difference. Keeping the nation positive, we can do this together by uniting apart, reaching out to you at home and in the diaspora every Wednesday night from 8 to 10 right here on GIS. Join me. If we hold on together, our dreams will never die. Be a part of flattening the fare curve and replacing it with hope and positivity, sharing the stories and the expectation of a brighter tomorrow. We can beat this virus. Remember, we are in this together. Distance makes the difference. DMD, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. here on GIS. Sharing is caring.
Welcome back. While the 2020 dry season is approaching its end, the National Water and Sewage Authority, NAWASA, continues to contend with reduced water levels at a number of its dams island-wide. This has resulted in the authority being faced with distribution challenges, resulting in valve regulation. Schedules being instituted for 7 systems across the island and affecting supply to hundreds of consumers. Chrisanne Mitchell has more in this report.
Even with intermittent rains in some parts of the island, the authority is faced with increased shortfalls in production, hindering its ability to provide a 24-hour supply to some consumers. The Les Avocats, Mardi Gras, Laura, Mamacans, Munich, Mirbeau, and Petiatang water systems are on valve regulations, which remains in effect unless advised by NAWASA. While NAWASA is working to address this challenge in the long term, it is important that individuals make personal safe storage a priority in the short term, even more so now with the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic, which requires increased use of water for personal hygiene. Through the Green Climate Fund, GCF, valued at $125 million Eastern Caribbean dollars, and which is now being rolled out, NAWASA will construct new and increased storage facilities for both raw and treated water, in effect eliminating the challenges currently faced in both the dry and rainy seasons. NAWASA also strongly encourages persons to conserve and limit non-essential use of water for activities such as power washing of paved surfaces, washing of vehicles with hoses, and irrigation of lawns and gardens. The authority also encourages individuals to continue reporting leaks as soon as they are noticed in an effort to minimize wastage. For the National Report, I am Chrisanne Mitchell.
And finally in the news, following the repatriation of more cruise ship workers on Sunday and the 23rd confirmed COVID-19 case being a cruise ship worker, Minister for Health Honorable Nicholas Steele says that the repatriation of Grenadian nationals will continue as government has made a commitment to bring Grenadians home. He assured that this will not affect the general public as screening and other health protocols will still be employed. Over 200 Grenadians are working on various cruise ships.
This is also a test of our border controls, our health screening at the ports, and I want to say to the public that we do expect, as we repatriate more and more Grenadians and have other individuals maybe visit our shores, we do expect to find positive cases. The difference is that we expect to pick them up at the port or pick them up immediately after they have come into Grenada and be able to isolate quickly, and that is the only way that we can move forward. That is the only way that we can exist with COVID-19 in the world. And that is the only way that other nations that have been on lockdown and are going through the same journey like us of opening up are contemplating as the way forward. Stronger contact tracing, stronger quarantine methods, stronger port screening methods, and picking up those results as quickly and as early as possible. That also necessitates, as we move forward, the need for us to still maintain our level of due diligence, our various precautions, and with that combination of us practicing the physical distancing, wearing of masks, and sanitizing methods.
The workers have been on the sea since the beginning of the spread of the virus. Minister Steele is appreciative of the patience they have shown during this period.
We look forward to them coming home, going through the protocols and getting the clearance as quickly as possible. And all of our Grenadians out there, mothers who have been separated from children, brothers separated from sisters or family siblings, Grenadian nationals who live here and were caught out when we closed those borders and are waiting to come and do their time too, their quarantine, their testing, to be back in circulation with us. And my heart really goes out to you, and I want to thank you for your patience. Many of you have been reaching out to us and been supportive of what we are doing.
And that story brought an end to the National Report for Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. A recap of the top story. Strict measures to be implemented before fifth form students return to the classroom. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I'm Sherian Noel. Thank you for viewing.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.